Hello students, we are discussing about respiration in plants. Yesterday we are completed up to Krebs cycle. Now we will discuss about the remaining part. How many steps are there in aerobic respiration? 4 steps are there. Glycolysis, link reaction, Krebs cycle and electron transport system. Now we will discuss about electron transport system. In shortcut, it is called ETS, electron transport system. What is the site of glycolysis? Cytosol or cytoplasm. What is the site of link reaction and Krebs cycle? Mitochondrial matrix. Then what is the site of ETS? ETS occurs in the inner membrane of mitochondria. Inner membrane of mitochondria. Electron transport system takes place on the inner membrane of mitochondria. How many NADH are produced so far up to Krebs cycle in the aerobic respiration? Totally 10 NADH are generated. You know very well. Out of 10, 2 from glycolysis, 2 from link reaction, and the remaining 6 from Krebs cycle. Totally 10 NADH are generated. How many FADH2 are formed? 2 FADH2, and these are only formed in Krebs cycle. And these are called reduced coenzymes. Is it right? These are the reduced coenzymes, that is NADH and FADH2. Now, in the electron transport system, they donate electrons and become oxidized. After oxidation, again they enter into these phases, again to become the reduced ones. So that means these are repeatedly undergo oxidation, reduction is going on. And now, here, each one donate electrons. These electrons are transferred through different electron carriers, and ultimately those electrons are accepted by oxygen. Very important point. Terminal electron acceptor, oxygen. Terminal electron acceptor is oxygen. Terminal electron acceptor. The role of oxygen is present at the final stage. So far we didn't talk about oxygen. The role of oxygen is not there in glycolysis or link reaction or Krebs cycle. The role is come into limelight in the electron transport system. Even though oxygen is the terminal electron acceptor, it is crucial, it is very important, because it is the ultimate electron acceptor. As a result, water is formed. Water is formed, right? Now let us see what are the complexes present on the electron transport system, how they carry the electrons, what is the pathway, how ATP is generated. See this. This is the inner membrane of mitochondria, right? This is inner membrane of mitochondria. Inner to the inner membrane, there is matrix. outer to the inner membrane, there is intermembrane space, also called perimitochondrial space. Inner to the inner membrane matrix, outer to the inner membrane intermembrane space is present. Now on the inner membrane there are 5 complexes are present like this. See this. This is one complex. This is the first complex. Now here there is a second complex. This is the second complex. Here there is third complex. This is the third complex. Now here fourth complex is present. This is the fourth complex. And here there is a fifth complex is present. First one, this is the second complex. This is the third complex. This is the fourth complex. And it is the fifth complex. So like this, the complexes are organized on the inner membrane of mitochondria. This one is NADH dehydrogenase complex. This one is succinate dehydrogenase complex. This one is called cytochrome BC1 complex. This is called cytochrome C oxidase. This one is called F0 F1 complex. Right? There are 5 complexes. Along with these 5 complexes, there are 2 mobile carriers. The 2 mobile carriers are one ubiquinone, also called coenzyme Q, and there is cytochrome C. Here there is a cytochrome C mobile carrier. So number of mobile carriers are 2. One is ubiquinone, another one is cytochrome C. So this is the organization of these complexes and mobile carriers. Now how ATP is generated in these complexes, let us see now. Now we will see about NADH first. First complex is called gateway of electron transport. First one is called gateway of electron transport. Now NADH donate electrons to complex 1, it become oxidized so that NAD plus. And now these donate electrons to this one, these are accepted by FMN, flavin mononucleotide prosthetic group, and it is transferred to iron sulfur proteins. These electrons are transferred to iron sulfur proteins, and this transfer electrons to ubiquinone. While transporting electrons to this one, this complex transfer 4 protons from the matrix into the intermembrane space. Electrons are transferring like this, and during that process complex 1 transport 4 protons from matrix into the intermembrane space. Now electrons are here, ubiquinone is taken so that it takes protons are also from the matrix so that it become UQH2, right? Now in the complex 3, it gives electrons to the cytochrome B, and the protons are transferred into the intermembrane space. Electrons are given to this one. Here one thing you should remember, UQ cycle is operated for 1 electron, 2 protons. That means in order to complete this cycle, 2 turns it must occur. Totally 4 protons are transferred from matrix into the intermembrane space, and 2 electrons are transferred into the cytochrome B, then to cytochrome iron sulfur protein, and then to cytochrome C1. Don't confuse. C1, cytochrome C1 is a part of third complex. Cytochrome C is a mobile carrier. And now the electrons from complex 3 moves to cytochrome C, a mobile carrier. It carries electrons from here to the fourth complex. In the fourth complex, they give electrons to copper A, then to cytochrome A, then to cytochrome A3, then to cytochrome B. Now this cytochrome B gives electrons to oxygen, that is half O2, and plus 2 protons are consumed here. As a result, water molecule is generated. Here also actually 4 protons must be transferred, but 2 protons are utilized here. Therefore, only 2 protons are transported from matrix into the intermembrane space. Thus, at 3 places, protons are transferred from matrix into the intermembrane space. First complex, third complex, and fourth complex. Finally, water molecule is generated. For each NADH, 1 water molecule is formed. Therefore, 10 NADH, 10 water molecules are formed. Now, what about this FADH2? They donate electrons not to the first complex, but to the second complex. Therefore, FADH FAD undergo, that means it undergo oxidation and donate electrons. Therefore, they transfer to iron sulfur proteins. Now these electrons are accepted by ubiquinone, same like this. It become UQH2. Now they donate electrons to this one and moving like this. But this misses the first complex. Therefore, number of protons transferred decreases. Here from the cycle is moving like this only. Therefore, it surpasses the first complex, means only 6 protons are transported into the intermembrane space in case of FADH2, and 2 water molecules are also generated. That means 10 NADH, 10 water molecules, 2 FADH2, 2 water molecules, totally 12 water molecules is generated. 10 water molecules are produced. And now, see, during the transport of electrons like this, protons are transported across the membrane like this. For every 1 pair of electrons transported like this, 10 protons are released into the intermembrane space. 4 here, 4 here, and 2 here. I think you understand. So totally 10 protons are liberated into the intermembrane space for each NADH. As a result, what happens is, for every 1 NADH, 10 protons. Like that, at every time, the number of protons accumulated in the intermembrane space, the number of protons are accumulated in the intermembrane space. Therefore, more protons in the intermembrane space, less protons in the matrix. As a result, proton gradient is established according to chemiosmotic hypothesis proposed by Peter Mitchell. And as a result, these protons want to move into the back into the matrix, but this membrane is impermeable, but they can move through the F0 F1 complex. In the F0 F1 complex, 2 parts are there. The 2 parts are F0 that act as proton channel, F1 that act as the catalytic site which is protruded out, whereas F0 is integrated into the membrane. While protons are transporting, when the protons comes to this catalytic site, energy is liberated. As a result, ATP synthase, this is act as ATP synthase becomes activated. As a result, utilizing that energy, ADP is coupled with inorganic phosphate and form ATP. Coupled with inorganic phosphate and form ATP. Like that, ATP generated in the matrix. And it was found that one NADH can form 3 ATP. That means from these protons, when 3 protons moves out, 1 ATP generated. And what about the remaining one? When this one moves, energy is liberated. That energy is not enough, hence ATP is not formed. Totally, out of 10 protons, 3 ATP, therefore 1 NADH form 3 ATP. Similarly, FADH2, as it surpasses the first complex, only 6 protons are produced in the matrix. Therefore, 1 FADH2 produce 2 ATP. From this, we can calculate the total number of ATP. In aerobic respiration, from 1 glucose, how many ATP are produced totally? 38 ATP. Total number of ATP from 1 glucose, 38 ATP. How many are directly produced? 4 ATP. How many are directly produced? 4 ATP, right? Therefore, the remaining 34 ATP must be produced by this method. 34 ATP. Okay. Here, let us calculate. 10 NADH, each one 3, that is equal to 10 into 3, 30 ATP. Each FADH to 2 such FADH2 are generated. Therefore, 2 FADH2 produces 2 into 2, 4 ATP. Thus, 34 ATP are formed, right? 34 ATP are produced. 34 plus directly formed 1, 4. Totally 38 ATP is produced from 1 glucose. So that is about electron transport system. Then, and all these values are true based on certain assumptions. And this is true if glucose has respiratory substrate. And this is true, all the steps of respiration occurs in a sequence. And this is true when no substrate, no intermediate substance cannot move out. It is not utilized for anything else. Like that, if all are correct, then only these values are supposed to be right. And amphibolic pathway. Amphibolic pathway. Traditionally, we believe that respiration is a catabolic pathway, no doubt about that. Because in respiration, complex molecule breaks into simple molecules. Traditionally, we believe that respiration, for that matter, Krebs cycle is a catabolic pathway. But some intermediates of Krebs cycle like alpha, keto, glutaric acid act as a substrate for synthesis of several amino acids. Therefore, not only catabolism, but also anabolism occurs. That means in respiration, catabolic reactions occur, anabolic reactions also occurs. So as it involves both catabolic and anabolic, it is also called amphibolic. Amphibolic pathway. Amphi means both. Bolic means here catabolic, anabolic. So respiration is an amphibolic process. It is not simply a rather a catabolic process. It is catabolic process. It is anabolic process. When you combine both, you call it as amphibolic pathway. Okay. And now, what is the most favored respiratory substrate? Glucose. Very important bit. The most favored respiratory substrate is glucose. When glucose is degraded by number of steps in a sequence, you will get 38 ATP. But proteins and fats also act as respiratory substrates during starvation conditions. But pure proteins and pure fats never act as respiratory substrates. That means when you eat fat, they won't directly enter as from the starting step. For example, if fat acts as a respiratory substrate, first it break into fatty acids and glycerol. Now, the glycerol, after converting into PGAL, it enters into respiratory pathway. That means fats directly cannot enter into the pathway. After converting into PGAL, glycerol enters. After converting fatty acid into acetyl coenzyme A, it will enter into the respiratory pathway. Similarly, proteins are also directly cannot act as respiratory substrate. First it break into amino acids. First they break into amino acids. Then after deamination, the amino acids are deaminated, they may enter into the respiratory pathway at pyruvic acid stage or acetyl coenzyme stage or any intermediate stage of Krebs cycle. It can be enters. So that is about amphibolic pathway. And next one is respiratory quotient, RQ. Respiratory quotient. The volume of CO2 liberated, the amount of CO2 liberated, or the volume of CO2 liberated to the volume of oxygen consumed. This ratio is called as RQ. RQ may be defined as simply CO2 by O2. RQ is simply CO2 by O2. The amount of CO2 liberated to the amount of oxygen consumed. By using RQ value, we can predict the type of respiratory substrate. The common respiratory substrates are carbohydrates. If the respiratory substrates are carbohydrates, what is its RQ value? 1. Indicating that if the respiratory substrates are carbohydrates, the amount of CO2 liberated to the amount of oxygen consumed is equal, therefore its RQ value is 1. For fats, it is 0.7 because fats contain less oxygen. For its breakdown, more oxygen is required. Therefore, its value is less than 1. It is exactly 0.7. For example, in examination, question is asked like this. What is the RQ value of tripalmitin? Immediately you have to know tripalmitin is a fat. Therefore, fat tripalmitin value 0.7. Similarly, proteins act as respiratory substrates. Their value is 0.9. That is between 0.8 to 0.9, and exactly it is around that is 0.9. Here also it contains less oxygen. For its breakdown, more oxygen is required. Therefore, the value of RQ for both fats and proteins is less than 1. And if the respiratory substrates are organic compounds, it is greater than 1 because it already contains high oxygen. For its breakdown, less oxygen is required. So these are very important. Carbohydrate RQ value 1, fats and proteins is less than 1, exactly fat 0.1, protein is 0.9, organic acids value is greater than 1. So try to focus on that. And that is about the respiration. And in the next exam, there is a cumulative account of ecosystem is also there. Cumulative account of ecosystem is also there. Now I will tell you, there is a separate topic in ecosystem we will discuss in detail in the next week, but brief account of this one is also given in this week. Therefore, some questions appear from ecosystem. What do you have to study in ecosystem? First, what is ecological succession? The gradual and fairly predictable change in the species composition in an area is called as ecological succession. What is the difference between series and seral stages? Series and seral stages or seral communities. During ecological succession, gradually one group of plants are replaced by another group of plants, and that group is later replaced by another group of plants. Like that, each stage is called seral community or seral stage. The entire sequence of seral communities is called series. Entire sequence is called series. Right. Then, what is primary succession? What is secondary succession? When succession began in an area where previously there is no life, it is called primary succession. And it is a slow process. The example for primary succession, bare rock, newly cooled lava, newly constructed pond, all these are examples. Then what is secondary succession? When succession began in area where previously there is a life, because of some reasons the life has been lost. That is called secondary succession. For example, abandoned farmlands, deforestation, all these are examples for secondary succession. Among primary succession and secondary succession, which is fast? Why? Secondary succession is faster than primary succession. Is it right? Because in secondary succession, already some amount of soil is there. That is why. And then, what is pioneer species? You have to know. The first organisms to colonize on new area are called pioneers. Then what is climax community? Whether succession begins in water or land, ultimately it leads to a mesic community, stable community with the environment. That community is called as climax community. Then what is hydrosphere? What is geosphere? Succession begins in water, hydrosphere. Succession begins in land, geosphere. Like that. What are the different stages of hydrosphere? You have to remember the correct sequence of the stages. And then biogeochemical cycles. What is a biogeochemical cycle? How many types of cycles are there? Gaseous cycle, sedimentary cycle. Example for gaseous cycles, example for sedimentary cycles. And detailed account of carbon cycle and phosphorus cycle you have to read. And finally, ecosystem services. Ecosystem services. You know very well, every day we are getting lot of services from the environment freely without paying anything. And those ecosystem services values are immense. You know that Robert Constanza estimated the values of ecosystem services. There are different types of ecosystems. So try to, what is the percentage of each and every type of ecosystem service? So if you work hard like that briefly, definitely we can answer the questions. So this is about today's class, and that's all today. continue in the next class. Thank you one and all.